What's up, everyone? My name is James Lynch, and this is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, post them in the chat. I'll get to every single one of them once we get things rolling here. We're just waiting a little bit here for Dave Hall from the Canucks Army. We've seen him on the show before. We're going to talk all things Vancouver Canucks today. Obviously, back in action tonight for preseason, taking on the Calgary Flames. We'll get into that, and we'll just get on to overall impressions with the Canucks so far during their training camp and everything else they have been up to. So lots going on there as far as the Vancouver Canucks. We got a bit of news this morning. The Oilers acquiring Connor Ingram from the Utah Mammoth for future considerations. We can talk a little bit about that as well. And also, we found out that Luke Hughes has been re-signed by the New Jersey Devils there too. So it's a lot sort of going on in the world of news right now. I'm just talking to Dave right now. We're trying to get him going. 1 second here. I can't multitask, as you guys know. There we go. We're trying to get Dave on here momentarily. But yeah, lots going on right now in the news. So we can talk about the Canucks. We can talk about anything else that is going on here. This Connor Ingram move, I'll talk about this quickly with the Oilers. This is a good move for the Oilers in terms of getting some depth. Now, everything I'm kind of reading is that they're going to be using him, I think, for their minor league affiliate, not necessarily for the major club. It does sound like they're still going with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. I wonder if that gets switched up if things go sour with that tandem throughout the season. But everything I'm reading right now, let me bring up the tweets to kind of back this up a little bit, because Jim Matheson, who covers the Oilers, was sort of hinting at this as well. When I saw the trade, I thought this meant they were going to maybe do some things, as far as the goaltending goes. But let's read these tweets here from Jim Matheson, again, covering the Oilers. So he's mentioning organizational depth with Connor Ingram here. If we're looking at it, it says Oilers get Ingram for organizational depth, and they can bury the $1.2 million in the minors. Looks like they want a vet battle in Mbako in goal with Ingram, and Tompkins with Johnson and Day in ECHL. Future considerations for Ingram, maybe sign him if after the season they give Utah a draft pick or a salary player. So that's something interesting to keep in mind. But, you got to figure the Oilers got to do something. I don't think the reason they haven't been successful is their goaltending, but it is one thing that, has been sort of looming over the club a little bit. They did switch goaltending coaches, but I do wonder if they are going to be looking at, something else as far as the goaltending tandem. So we'll find that out. He had a really good season. What was 2023, 2024, just haven't really seen glimpses of that since then. So that's one thing to keep in mind too. Let's get to your questions. Again, we're just waiting for Dave. He's getting his audio all fixed up. We will talk about the Canucks here. I think both WCs come out of the Central, but Vancouver certainly in the mix for number 3 in the Pacific. I would agree here. It's going to be, I think, listen, I mean, to answer my own question of the title of this video, I think the Canucks are going to make the playoffs. I think even if for some reason Pettersson's, I shouldn't say that. I think Pettersson has to play well. I think that really does hinge on things. I just can't imagine a season that had so much drama last year, injuries, so many other things that could have gone wrong last year for the Canucks did go wrong, and they still weren't that far off making the playoffs. You get a healthy Demko, you get a, decent goaltending tandem, you get a full season with this defense. I think the Canucks can make the playoffs. And I've said this before, I think the team leaving the West there is going to be Los Angeles. But we got Dave Hall in now. Looks like we got the mic issues fixed and everything. Happy to have him back on here. Nobody better to talk about the Canucks than Dave Hall. Dave, how are you, man? Get everything sorted out. Oh, hope. No, we still don't have any mic, but it's okay. It's okay. I don't know what's going on. Good old StreamYard here. He's gonna work some magic here. I'll let Dave figure this out while we stay in the back here. I was mentioning to Dave, you could also use his phone, but obviously you get the webcam if you're on the computer there. I've had all types of issues when it comes to connecting on streams. I've seen it all, so I'm a veteran when it comes to this. But anyways, back to the Canucks. I just think that. I think what people are forgetting is that while the offense was significantly, hindered by trading JT Miller, and they've lost, Dakota Joshua and a few other names. I know they're pretty much running back the same team, but again, you've got an entire season of, solid defense, right? You've got Marcus Pettersson. You're going to have a full season with Elias Pettersson. There's going to be a lot of different things going on there. It looks like we got Dave Hall now, although I don't know if his camera's working here. Dave, do we got audio here? What's going on? Let's see.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, you're good. I think we might have to get you to flip your phone the other way. Otherwise, you're going to look vertical the whole time. But I appreciate you making all the efforts to battle with technology here today. It's all good.
Yeah, my apologies. That's a new one for me. I'm not really sure what's going on here.
Yeah, blame StreamYard. The damn bird strikes again, as they say. But obviously, no one better to talk about the Canucks than you, Dave. Obviously, doing great work over there at the Canucks Army. Where I wanted to start first with this is, you've covered a number of training camps. How has this year differed with the new coaching staff? I know we've had a number of coaching staffs over the years, but you've got Adam Foote coming into the fold. You got Brett McLean. You got Kevin Dean. How have things differed this year, maybe compared to even last season with Rick Tocchet, just from your vantage point?
Well, I think for one, like the big one is the systems. Like you're seeing a real different. It looks like the way that they're going to play this year could be a little bit different than what we've seen, especially with Tocchet. There's a lot more. That's the fourth player, aka that D-man, really breaking through to kind of join the rush at all times, whenever, if ever. So it seems like, if preseason or training camp is any indication, it seems like they're going to play a little more, I guess I'll say loose, a little more aggressive. So for me, that's the big thing. And it's kind of exciting, to be honest.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And, one of the interesting things is we see a guy like Philip Cheadle go out there and be able to be a bit more creative. And, I think there is a school of thought that a lot of, people agree with that. Tocchet maybe was kind of hindering him with a player like him specifically. Do you think we're going to see more creativity this year just with that? It seems like Foote's a little bit more open-minded in terms of the system. And they have the defense now that was the issue last year was they tried to be a little bit more creative, but they kept getting caught on the back end. Now you've got a solid foundation for the defense. How much will that sort of help this season?
Well, I think you nailed it at the tail end there. I think the defense is going to play a big difference. I think I think you are right. They're going to let them play a little more creative. We'll see. I mean, at least to start the season, we'll see after 10 games if it's working or not. We'll see how he pivots. But, we've heard a lot of reports that there's been a lot of ongoing talks between the coach and players. And so, you almost get a sense that he's not specifically asking how they want to play, but maybe trying to, especially with a guy like Pettersson, trying to see what will kind of, get those juices going and kind of see what kind of style of play will make it work. So I think there will be a little more openness to creativity. And, we saw it with Hedl in the preseason already, as you mentioned. He looked like an all-star versus AHL players. So, I mean, it was a good sign. So I think to start, I fully think that it's going to be a bit more open-minded game style. But like I said, that could also pivot pretty quick if they're losing games. So.
Yeah, and if you've been paying attention to training camp, there's obviously a few players that have really stood out, and one in particular is Braden Coots. I know you're the prospects guy when it comes to everything. Was this something you were expecting? Because I think for a lot of people, they knew that Coots was hardworking. That's sort of the thing we were hearing in Seattle is that he's a hard worker, and now we're hearing with this training camp, last guy off the ice, asking a lot of questions, just really gelling in with the teammates, and it really looks like he's going to make this team, whether that's something short term or long term. But would you say that's been the biggest surprise in camp this season?
I'm still surprised. I mean, at the end of the day, he's still an 18-year-old facing AHL to NHL type players. That being said, if you followed me at all at Canucks Army, that I've been pretty big on Braden Coots. I thought when they made that pick, it was a home run. There was guys like Victor Eklund, Keishon Aitchison that were still available that, there is an argument that they could have went that way. But for me, Braden Coots has always been the go-to guy. He's a right shot center. He's a two-way guy. He doesn't skimp on any of his responsibilities. I just think, and we're seeing it now, he's the kind of, like, as you mentioned, he's a rink rat. He's there all the time. He wants to get better. He doesn't, like he even mentioned in one of his press conferences, he doesn't come to the training camp, even though it's his first NHL camp, to learn. He's here to make the team, that's just his competitive nature. Whether it's this year or not, it probably shouldn't be this year, but whether it's this year or not, I think they got themselves a good one. And, he's just showing the fan base right now why he's just such an easy pick at 15.
Would it still work where they could have him up for a few games and then send him back to junior type thing just to get that little bit of experience? Because I think the concern is, and listen, we've seen this in the past with this team, with Jake Virtanen, with Jared McCann, so many players that they would have full season, and it was just the schedule and, making that leap was just too much. I think a lot of people want to avoid that, but at the same time, you also want to reward Coots for the way he's been playing in camp. So could there be a situation where, he's up for maybe 9 games and then they send him back down?
Absolutely. And that's probably, to be quite honest, that's probably the direction this is going to go, right? Like at this point, it's not even that they're rewarding him. He's earned this spot. Like I don't know if this is a good indictment on the team itself or a great indictment on Coots, but he's been one of the better centermen in this entire preseason. You know, in my opinion, he's outplayed guys like Atu Ratu, and you know we've only seen Teddy Bluger once, so you know that's neither here nor there. But you know he's earned a spot at least on the starting roster come October 9th. So in my opinion, I think that's a 9-game. You know, whether that's 9 full games, I think he's definitely earned a spot. I don't think, personally, this is just my opinion, I don't think it's the proper game plan to go more than 9 games. I think burning a year and not allowing to go back to junior to dominate as an 18-year-old is a mistake. But at the same time, you know, every single game, he just keeps on earning himself another game. So we'll see what happens once the regular season kicks off. But so far, it's been electric. So.
What are your impressions of Evander Kane and how he's gelled in with this team? That was obviously one of the moves they made over the summer. It seems like he's sort of doing what he's supposed to, but I haven't heard any like, wow, he's like, you know, looking amazing. And on the flip side, I haven't heard anything bad either. So would you just say he's sort of been brought in to do what he's supposed to do?
Yeah, I think so. And you know what, you're really seeing it right now. I know yesterday they were practicing. We might even see it again, but you know, he's been skating on a line with Lekaramaki and Braden Coots. So kind of taking the two young guys who have also formed a nice chemistry. So he's that third guy on that young line that's kind of, you know, showing them the ropes. You see him on the bench, just kind of talking strategy when they get back to the bench. So I think he's doing everything you want. You know, in his one game that he played, he scores an empty net goal, but he just played that sound hockey that gets you kind of excited that maybe he could add that, you know, a couple goals, but also play that, you know, third line kind of role. So I've liked what I've seen. I mean, granted, it's only been one preseason game, but I thought he's played his part for sure.
The other acquisition they got, which I kind of forgot about until it's sort of been in the news this week, is Pierre-Olivier Joseph, P.O. Joseph, who they brought in. There's obviously that relationship there from Pittsburgh back in the day. And my understanding is, you know, you get sort of a veteran, that's sort of your 7th guy brought in there. I think he's going to end up making the team, and I think he would be sort of a press box guy instead of keeping one of the younger players on the roster there. I know he hasn't really impressed, overly impressed in camp, but he's just sort of there as like that insurance. Is that kind of how you view him going forward, as someone that they have the veteran experience, they can rely on him, and he's sort of an upgrade in some ways over Noah Juleson. I know they play different games, but you're getting this veteran where you're not having to worry about the mistakes with Juleson. That was sort of a big thing, and we're hearing about that right now in Philly. I'm seeing the Flyers fans not too happy.
Yeah, right. I'm seeing that a lot too. I think we've just seen so much Noah Juleson, discourse on our Twitter that it's just popping up into our algorithm. But yeah, he's like, when they first made the signing, I was thinking in my eyes, it was pretty much what Christian Wolanin was originally brought in to play, in my, like that kind of tweener role that can go down if they need some players down there, or he can just sit in the press box and you don't feel too bad about him sitting there. Because I think that's going to be, DPD is going to slide in for the most part. Derek Forbert's going to be that extra guy that interchanges them more than likely. And so I think, P.O. Joseph, he's going to be in the press box more often than not this year. But like I said, you don't feel too bad about that being the case because, he's on league minimum. He's a veteran guy. It is what it is. But he can also go down if you got some injuries, which always tends to happen mid-season. He can be that, number top pairing guy in Abbotsford. So I think he's right in the middle. And, but again, you don't want a guy like Pettersson or Wielander up there sitting in the press box. That's just wasted development. So he's the kind of, unfortunately, he kind of takes the hit to make the play, if you will, to be that 7th guy that's just going to, basically pay his dues as the press box guy and needed when needed.
Yeah, well, which is never a bad option to have that veteran presence back there as well. You mentioned injuries. Obviously, the big one right now is Niels Höglander, which is unfortunate because it looked like he came into camp in really good shape. I know it didn't have a great sort of, part of the season last year, but there was a lot of expectation, a lot of hope. They're saying lower body, it's his foot. I don't know why they try hide this because everyone saw him with the boot on. So it's obviously a foot thing. So he's going to be 8 to 10 weeks. Who's going to take his spot? Is it going to be Lekaramaki? Who do you think will sort of fill that role while he's out, or did they go and get someone?
This is the funny thing. This is why preseason doesn't matter. It's totally true, but this is also why preseason matters. I'm literally switching my role to what I said last week. Talked to me last week. I thought Lekaramaki should go back to the American League. I just thought that's he just needs a little more time physically and to gain some more confidence. But since then, he's played 2 preseason games and has looked pretty good. In my opinion, in the Edmonton game, he was the best forward. He scores a really nice goal. He's not lacking in his defensive lapses here. So in my eyes, he's been one of the better forwards. And so, we've always thought that, if who's going to score on that second line power play? And if he can come in and actually earn a spot, he's the perfect guy to line up on that second unit power play, and his play has shown it. So I think it is going to be like Aramaki. At first, I always just thought it was going to be Carlson, Baines, and Ratu as kind of the locks here. But as the week has gone by, my opinion has changed. I think Lek Aramaki has at least shown that he deserves a spot, much like Coots, to start. We'll see where that goes. If they can roll in, if Coots actually makes this team, keep that Evander Kane, Braden Coots, Jonathan Lekaramaki line and see what he does on the power play. We'll see where it goes. I still think he could benefit from some time in the AHL. But at the same time, just like Coots, if you're ready, you're ready. So we'll see how it goes. And, if you can have another good game, you roll that into the regular season, we'll see where it goes.
We got the preseason game tonight against Calgary. I think, I know it's preseason, but I think it's fair to say this is kind of a crossroads game here for Archie Baines. It's weird because I'm kind of noticing this disconnect between, I think, the fans and the media, where it seems like a lot of people are saying that Baines is going to make the team. From what I've seen, he hasn't really impressed that much. And I do wonder if this is, this is a game where he's really got to show something. He hasn't really stood out to me. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but what are your thoughts on Baines and the potential of, where the Canucks go with him if he doesn't end up impressing here?
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought he had a couple good plays in was it the Edmonton game? There was, I believe it was Edmonton, where, he really showed off what we saw at the American League level, hustles hard into the corner, beats out his guy, makes a pretty slick little pass into the slot there that creates a pretty high end scoring chance. Those are the kind of plays that we see time and time again at the American League level that we just haven't seen at the NHL level. So that was encouraging. But I do agree. He was kind of one of those players that I almost had chalked in, given his waiver status, given the numbers game, and in his new 2-year contract, that he would be the guy to kind of fill that void on the fourth line, third line. But now Lekkerimäki's outplayed him. And I think Linus Karlsson is a guy that's more fit for the fourth line. So I think he outbeats him as well. So I agree. I think unless he picks it up real big here in the next game or two, I do wonder if he's going to be the odd man looking out. They could keep him up as the extra, the 13th forward, see where that goes. But, he might also be a candidate where they try to slip through waivers. If he doesn't have a good game tonight, they might try to slip him through and see where it happens. But I do know internally that they are high on him and they do want to see him make this team. So I think they are going to give him every opportunity to make that team and to make them not make the hard decision of trying to sneak them through waivers. But I agree. I don't think he's shown enough right now. And it's frustrating too, because, especially for someone like me who watches him night in, night out in Abbotsford, I see what kind of level he can get into. It's just a matter of, taking those extra risks and playing like you can at the NHL level. So we'll see where it goes. But so far, it hasn't been great.
We got a couple more minutes here with Dave Hall from Canucks Army. If you guys have any questions, post them in the chat. Canucks related or not, doesn't matter. What's going on with Yuri Patera? They put him on waivers. It seems to me like, and then again, just so we're kind of going down the chain here, Demko and Lankin, and obviously with the big club, with Abbotsford, yep. I'm assuming Tolopito and Young. Where does Patera fit into all this? Because they put him on waivers. They signed him. Remember, he had all those weird waiver moves last year. He was like with Boston, then he was back with their. What are they doing with him? Do you have any idea? Because I'm completely baffled what the plan is with Patera.
Honestly, I hate to say it, but I honestly have no idea. Last year, trying to get updates on him was incredibly difficult. It always is, but to go almost a full season and then off season and then preseason without really getting any updates on his game. He didn't slide into a preseason game. We haven't really seen him for what it's worth. He seemed to look good at preseason, and they do seem to see him as a good piece of depth for the team. But it's at this point, I struggle to find ways to get him in a lineup, whether that's Abbotsford or Vancouver. I know that they like Tolopilo has been one of the stories of this whole preseason. He's been lights out. I believe he's let in 1 goal in all of his stints. Ty Young, they're very high on him. Yeah, he didn't have the greatest performance in the preseason, but this is a goalie that they really believe in, and they want to get games as much as possible. So Honestly, I hate to say I don't know, but it baffles me. I don't know what's going on. I think he's good. He's good, solid depth option at this point. But what good's a depth option if he's sitting in the press box the entire season and not getting any game reps? So we'll see how it goes. Injuries are always a thing. Happens every single year. So there is a good chance he does slide in. But as of right now, he's I call him the international man of mystery. It's been, his entire tenure with the Vancouver Canucks has just been an incredible mystery.
Yeah, an enigma, as they say, which is true.
Yes.
So getting back to kind of the overall scope of the Canucks and kind of looking at this roster and seeing, the division and everything, do you see this as a playoff team? I think people sort of agree with the fact that, look, Pettersson's got to be better, Demko's got to be healthy. Those two things happen. This looks like a playoff team, because I think one of the things that people forget is that they're going to have a full season with this defense core, right? They didn't have Vinny Desharnais last year. There's a lot of holes back there, and you didn't have Demko, and you had this whole Seelovs and Lankinen thing going on. I think that alone, they were so close. I think they can get in. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I agree. You kind of nailed it there. I think if healthy, they have a top 5 tandem in the game, in my opinion. Defense, definitely, again, one of the better defensive cores in the game. So I think defensively, they're going to be a very strong team. I think they're going to win a lot of 3-2 games, 2-1 games. Problem is, and this hasn't been something that has been really alleviated, is where are the goals coming from, right? And that's where, that's why I kind of bring up the power play too with Lekkerimäki, because, Lekkerimäki might not be fully ready and fully developed. He could use some time in the American League, but this team needs goals. And so you're not going to find in this system a better sharpshooter than Lekkerimäki. So, just by proxy, he almost seems he has to be up there just to try to score some goals for this team, because that's the only thing that I worry about. I just don't really know where those goals are coming from. If it's not from Quinn Hughes, doing his magic from the back end. Obviously, Pettersson, a strong Pettersson changes the entire game. But right now, we kind of have to go off of that. We might not see that. So I think that's my only qualm with the team right now, is I just don't know where these goals are coming from. And so, but like I said, I think they're going to win a lot of 3-2 games, a lot of tight games, just because their goaltending and defense is so strong. Now it's just a matter of, can we get some offense?
We sort of knew this was going to happen, but do have to mention that Luke Hughes re-signing with the Devils today, $9 million AAV, 7 years. I think we all kind of figure that, again, I think it's still up in the air with Hughes. Like, everyone's sort of certain that he's going to go to New Jersey, but I think too, it's really going to depend on what the on-ice product looks like. If this is another season like last year, I think it's pretty obvious he's going to leave. But, obviously Hughes re-signing, there was a little talk I saw this week, maybe like, is there been discussions with trading Hughes if they can't come to terms? But obviously the Devils were able to get it done. So I guess just with that said, like, I think this is things are sort of trending the way they're supposed to go. I think at the end of the day with Hughes, it really just depends on the success of the Canucks. Is that kind of how you're looking at it?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I do think I also have a bit of a different take. I also, I hate not to be boring here, but I also, it is a story. It is a story that, the media has caught. Even Jim Rutherford continues to bring it up. It is a big deal. It is a big story. Don't get me wrong. I agree with that. But at the same time, I am a firm believer of, Quinn Hughes is, he's been given the keys to the Vancouver Canucks. For him, I get that he wants to play with his brothers. I mean, he's never actually said that yet, to anyone, quote unquote. But it obviously he would want to play his brothers. But that could mean at the Olympics. That could mean at the tail end of his career. I like I said, I get that it's a big story that he could leave and he could go to New Jersey and he could do all these things. But I'm still a firm believer that this kid cares a lot about what he's doing in Vancouver. He's the captain. He has a chance to make, a lot of history with this team. I just think he takes a lot of pride in that. And I think he's kind of put in a bit of a rock and a hard place right now, because as he already mentioned, he can't sign for another year. So, and he's not going to give up any bargaining tools. His agents told him, you can't talk about it like you want to talk about it. Like you can't. So, he can't really decide either way. And so I get, we're going to have to talk about it. It's a thing. It has to be done. But I'm just kind of a firm believer that I think the fact that he's implanted himself as, a strong, permanent piece to this Vancouver Canucks organization sits well with him. So we'll see. That's just my take on it. It's a little bit of a boring take. I know it doesn't, create a lot of headlines, but I just, maybe that's just me being a hopeful. But like I said, I'm not naive to the fact that it can happen. I just, there's no proof that it even wants to be happen. So.
Well, no, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm a little bit more glass half full in the situation than other people are. Two people, because Canucks Twitter is everyone's just so like it's so polarizing. It's like
Yeah.
the team's in ruins, like all this stuff. But like I look at the fact that you had a lot of his buddies resign, and Connor Garland and
Yes.
Besser and Demko, and these part of the leadership group. Like I agree. Like I don't think there's any guarantee. Here's the other thing, Dave. I don't know if New Jersey's necessarily this team that everyone's kind of making them out to be. Like they need a full, healthy Jack Hughes for a season. That hasn't happened in a while. I think if you add up the amount of games played for Jack Hughes, it equals like almost a season or two. He hasn't been healthy. So I don't think there's a guarantee that New Jersey's necessarily in a better spot than Vancouver is in terms of what they've been able to do. There's a lot of potential there, but I also don't buy into this like, oh yeah, New Jersey's so much more well run. They've got issues. They got a couple bad contracts and they still got to get, cap compliant if they do want to bring in Hughes and figure that out as well, right? So
well, you nailed it right there. Like they just signed the brother to what was it, 9 million, this morning? Yeah. So you got 9 million, you got Jack Hughes on the so, and then who knows what Quinn's is going to be? Like we might be talking 14, 15. So are you really going to have a trio of Hughes brothers locked in for 30 million or what? Whatever it be. I guess it would even be even more than 30 million actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, so that is something to consider. Yeah, it's a fun idea. Can it actually work? Can you actually get three amazing Hughes brothers all on the same team financially? We'll see, but I don't know.
Yeah. And by the way, worst case scenario, Hughes does leave. Bedard's coming here anyways, right? So people gotta settle down. It's all going to work out in the end. Him and Celebrini, they're gonna join forces and come over here. Okay, before we go, again, I recommend everyone here go check out all your coverage over at Canucks Army. One of the things I love is getting sort of the down low on the prospects in Abbotsford. We talked a little bit about that today. Who's someone this year you think could really pop, or someone that maybe we're not thinking of too much in terms of prospects that we should be keeping an eye on in Abbotsford that maybe could make that jump to the club, or anyone that you're impressed with that maybe we're not talking about?
In Abbotsford, well, I'm well. He's not a rookie anymore. But I mean, I think Kirill Kudryavtsev is. I know this is almost like a given at this point because he had such a strong rookie year. But there's such a big talk about Tom Wielander, Mancini, and Elias Pettersson that I think Kudryavtsev kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit as the kind of the guy in the corner saying, "Don't forget about me." I think he's not going to make the team. Obviously, he's already been sent down. He probably won't even get a cup of coffee until maybe halfway through the season, if it even warrants one. But I think he's quietly been he's a defenseman that the fan base should be excited about. He's already shown that he can play big minutes in all situations. He can play on both right and left side. And Christian Wolanin's gone. I know Tom Wielander is going to be there, but I think Kudryavtsev is going to play a lot of minutes in Abbotsford this year. So he's a guy I think you kind of have to look out for. I think also, we'll see what Sawyer Minyo does, talking about defensemen as well. I've been super high on him, he was drafted as, a defensive first, smooth skating penalty killer. And since his draft year, he's been one of the most potent offensive defensemen in the entire WHL, like top 5, I believe. So he's shown this incredible ability to drive play from the back end. He has a wicked one-timer and release. Struggled in his preseason game this year. But if you actually go back to last season and watch tape of his preseason last season rather, he was one of the better defensemen. And that's, in my opinion, that game is what earned him his entry-level contract coming out of training camp. So, yes, he had a bad showing this year, but that happens, right? He's on the brink of his first real pro training camp. He's probably a little nervous, things happen. But he's a guy that I'm wondering what he can do. You think he has to put on a little bit of weight, but he's going to be an interesting name to keep an eye on that back end.
Quickly, Max Sasson, John's asking about him. Watch him, Western Michigan, look good. He's a guy too that I wonder, what's the future for him on this team as well? Because it's kind of crowded.
I'm a big Max Sasson guy, play driver. He's always the oil that makes the engine run in Abbotsford. He's just always the guy, fastest guy on the ice at all times. Works his ass off, just doesn't stop. So. No, I don't think he's going to be a top 6, maybe not even a third line guy, but I do think he's well worth keeping around for that fourth line, maybe even third line center duties. Sounds like the organization might not see him as a center. He's not a face-off ace like maybe a Ratu. But he doesn't quit. Like I said, he was a Talkett type player, and the fact that he doesn't skimp on his details, and he just constantly runs. So I'm a big Max Sasson guy. Again, not for a high-end NHL piece, but just as a player, and for that worthy fourth line, third line grinder kind of guy.
Dave, you're the best. Thanks for coming on, man. Always appreciate it. Let everyone know where they can check you out on social media and any stuff you got coming up for Canucks Army. You're always working hard, getting those really good articles out there. So just let my audience know before we let you out of here.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a calm before the storm. You can find me at Hall 1289 on Twitter, and then also at just Canucks Army. We're getting the American League started pretty quick here. Training camp opens up in a few days, so we'll have the Farmies back up and running. We do have some Tyson Cole and I, my colleague over at Canucks Army. We have some fun, exciting stuff going on with Abbotsford. We're going to change a few things up, so we've got some fun things on the go that I won't break just at this moment. But yeah, we've got some fun stuff. So just make sure to catch us at Canucks Army.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be keeping tabs on your coverage.
Absolutely. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Oh, good. You made it. We got through it. We got some good insight there. That's great. There you go. That is Dave Hall from Canucks Army joining us here on the show. One of our regulars here. Every couple months, I like bringing him on. And, one of the great things with Dave, like I mentioned all the time when we have him on here, is just the pulse on the prospects. So especially if you're playing fantasy hockey or anything like that, Dave's a great follow just because you are sort of getting that insight onto who is doing what on the Abbotsford side of things with the Canucks. So a lot going on into this training camp. Again, the Canucks going to be playing the Calgary Flames tonight for preseason. And everything I'm hearing is that they are going to dress sort of a close to NHL ready lineup. So a good chance to see what the team's going to be looking like this year under Adam Foote. Some of the, again, the guys, can they step up like an Archie Bains? Can, Lekramaki continue his good play? These are all things that we're going to be keeping an eye on, sort of looking at the Canucks tonight and beyond, because we're getting close to the regular season. I got my hockey pool draft on Sunday, so really excited about that. We're getting to that time of the year. It's a great time of year. I love it. It's best time of year in sports, in my opinion. So anyways, let's get back to some of John's questions here, because John, I'm sorry I did neglect it, but we only had Dave on for like 20 minutes. The Luke Hughes deal is certainly a bet for the future, but could look like a steal in a couple of years. So let's get to that deal with Luke Hughes. Just bring this up here on the screen. So it's an AAV of $9 million. We've got the Bleacher Report. So he's getting more than his brother, Jack, which is understandable because, defensemen, especially young defensemen, they're a commodity, right? And I think too, like Jack, at the time it was considered a steal, but then a couple people be like overpay or whatever. And it's like, yeah, he hasn't shown the $9 million contract yet, but we're talking about a 4th overall pick in 2021. You're banking on the future. And it's not a bad bet to have. This is going to be a foundational piece of the Devils going forward. Just 22 years old. Again, he's got to sort of fill into that contract. And it could be one of those situations where, you sign him to $9 million. Maybe he doesn't live up to that this season. Maybe he does next year. And then beyond, maybe that ends up being a contract that looks great in the long run. So I don't mind betting on players like this. I also don't mind the length of the contract too, as well. But I think this is a solid bet for New Jersey. But I do wonder, like Dave was mentioning as well, the cap issues with the Devils. They're right up against it. And they've got, and I was trying to remember the bad contracts, but Timo Meier is one that, they're over the cap right now, right? So if you look at where they're at right now, so you've got, a couple guys signed here. So they're over by like 3 million. So Timo Meier, $8 million a season, not really worth what he's been giving the team. If you look at his stats here, it's been a bit of a disappointment since coming over from San Jose. Just trying to get the stats up here real quick. Just 53 points last year, 26 goals, 27 assists. That's not what you sign an $8 million player to. So they're obviously expecting a bit more. Maybe he's a guy, and we were talking too about like clearing out cap room to make way for any future plans, like possibly getting a Quinn Hughes. Dougie Hamilton's going to be the name there, but then who's going to take that contract too? $9 million. He's got 3 more seasons left. That's a little bit high for a guy that's 32. He'll be 35 when his deal's done, or maybe 36. My math's correct, but a lot of questions over there in New Jersey. That's why, listen, I get people being excited about the future in New Jersey. There's a lot of young players here, 24, 26. Palat is actually another name that they'll probably look to move on from. Dawson Mercier is only 23. And then you look on the back end, you got Luke Hughes, a little bit of an older back end there as well, other than Samus and Simon Nemec as well. But yeah, the future's got to pan out. Buffalo's had a young team for a while too. They haven't been able to do anything with it. So again, I think New Jersey's got a little bit more bones there, a good mix of everything. But I just I don't buy into it's a guarantee New Jersey's going to be a good team. I don't buy into that yet. Ingram is a decent goalie. Yeah. So back to the Connor Ingram thing. Hopefully the mental health is better this season. Yeah, that was something we heard about last year, was that he was obviously dealing with some things. We'll see how that goes. Again, Utah, not a big market. Edmonton is a big market. You're going to have to deal with some of that pressure that goes on for the Edmonton media and everything else, right? So there's some things to kind of keep in mind there. What do we got here? Let's see. What do we got? Jersey is looking like they're playing the long con for the lost brother. Yeah, I mean, long game, you mean? Yes, possibly for sure. So we'll have to see what they're going to end up doing. Will they end up getting Quinn Hughes? We'll have to see. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting here. So I think a lot of it comes down to the success of the Canucks. Can they make the playoffs? I think they're a playoff team, to answer the question of my own header here. Just because, like, I think, their defense is right up there as far as some of the best in the league. And they've got maybe they could have the best goaltending tandem in the league. We don't know. If Demko's healthy and he gets anywhere close to what he's had, in past seasons, that's a good goaltender. Look how many teams have goaltending issues. I mean, half the league has goaltending issues. So if you're getting, a healthy Demko, that's an upgrade over most tandems that we have in the league right now. We already talked about Sasson. Really hope Baines makes it. I'm high on that kid. Well, the Baines story is interesting, right? I believe he was undrafted, came as sort of a walk-on to the Canucks. So if we look at it here, I'm just double checking here. So, 24 years old, was undrafted, did play his junior career for the Red Deer Rebels. And then I think he ended up playing for the Giants, if I'm not mistaken. No, he didn't. It was the Red Deer Rebels. My bad. I don't know why I thought he played for the Giants, but yeah, we'll see. Again, they've invested a lot of time and effort. And like Dave mentioned, they've given Baines a lot of opportunities for him to, go and, make this team, and he's got to prove it. So that's why tonight, good opportunity here. I'm we'll see if we have the lines pinned up yet in terms of what they have here, but let me double check here. Probably don't have the lines yet. Just looking at Brendan Batchelor, who does the radio for the Canucks here. So, yeah, I don't know if we have the, I don't have the lineups yet. So something to keep in mind. With Kaprizov getting $17 million AAV, what's your prediction for the next McDavid deal? I mean, he's got to get higher than that, right? I would think 20 is probably what I'm thinking for McDavid. Some people talked, I saw some chatter on social media today about like Crosby and how like Crosby's only done like, he's done like cheaper deals to let the team win. I don't see McDavid doing that. I think for him, why wouldn't you want to get paid as the highest player? Like set the bar, set the standard for players as well. That's why this is so interesting to see what ends up happening with McDavid, because he's in a great position right now. In terms of what he wants to command. And I think this Kaprizov deal, the fact that it went higher than I think people thought. I think it was The Athletic. They had their projection of a contract. I think they had him at 15 million. He gets 17. McDavid, McDavid has to go higher than that, I would think. Just my prediction there. Devils goaltending worries me for the future. Markstrom is old. He is old. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I would love to get someone, by the way, should be getting more guests on here that are, from different markets. I did get some contacts recently. So I'm hoping to actually tried to get someone here from the Ducks today to talk about Mason McTavish. Wasn't able to do it, but I am going to try and get some more names on here. But one of the things I want to know is, what does the pipeline look like for the Devils? Because right now I'm seeing two veteran goaltenders, and they've got this Georgie. Here, I'll show you guys what I'm seeing here. They've got this Georgie Romanov, who actually looks like he's a UFA right now, but your two goaltenders are 35. Like, what's in the pipeline? I don't even know right now who their, goaltending prospects are. You're right. They've got to look beyond that. And this is an issue with a lot of teams. Look how long it took Toronto to get like solid goaltending for a while. It seems like they do have it now with Stolarz and Wall. It's more about the combo working, because Wall can't stay healthy. Wall's missed a lot of time. You got Stolarz, who seems very capable of taking over that starting role. Like, it's an issue for a lot of teams. Edmonton's got it. So many teams just need to figure out their goaltending. And I completely agree, John. Like, Jake Allen, even at 1.8, like, I almost don't get why they signed him when you can find a Jake Allen probably on the market right now. I don't know what the thinking was in locking him up. Maybe it's just in case Markstrom goes elsewhere. I don't know, but they got to figure it out. And again, Markstrom at 4.1, is he going to get that next year as a UFA? I don't know. I don't know what the market's going to be like for goaltenders. So a lot of good points there, John. And again, I'll say it before, like, I think I agree with people being excited about the potential of New Jersey. We just have to actually see it come to fruition. There's a lot of teams like that. What players do you see breaking loose in New Jersey now that they are $3 million over? I think Dawson Mercier is going to have a better season as well. I think he's the guy that can really blossom. Again, 23 years old. That's typically the age when you see guys sort of break out and look a little bit better here. Other than that, like, I don't know. Nico Hischier, what was his stats last year? He's another guy that I think there's more of a ceiling there for him. I mean, this was he was a first overall pick, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2017. So, are we going to see him get back to the year when he got 80 points? Can he stay healthy as well? 75 games last year. These are all things that we need to sort of factor in. Jack Hughes is another guy that, again, if we add up sort of the games that he's played, 62 games the last 2 seasons. He has yet to play a full season at this point. 49 games in 21-22. So again, you like the 99 points he had a couple seasons ago, but he's got to stay healthy and achieve that. He's been in the 70s the last couple seasons for a guy that they're, banking on being one of their top guys. Who takes the next step with Florida now that Barkov and Tkachuk out? That is easy for me. That's Anton Lundell for sure. When I saw that Barkov was out, my first thought was Lundell's going to step up and do it. So, yeah, they'll figure it out. Florida's, they're a smart team. Here's the thing that Florida has to their advantage. Actually, I don't even know what their cap situation's like, but if you look at Florida, yeah, they're over the cap right now. I think that is with Barkov on there. So they'll figure something out, but they're willing to take risks. And here's the other thing: there's players that want to play for this team. It's a very well set up system they have, from the practice facility to the environment to all that stuff. So they're going to be more appealing to certain players if you're wanting to waive that no trade clause. So that's an advantage that they have, and they've been able to sort of maintain this really strong lineup over the last couple of years. And they're, again, every year they keep doing the same thing. This year it's with Jeff Petrie. They bring him in on a 1-year contract, but they did this with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. They did this with Nate Schmidt. So they bring in a veteran that maybe could get paid a little bit more in another market, but they're getting him on the cheap there because he's sort of doing the prove me contract there. So we'll see how it looks. But I still think, even with these injuries, I mean, it is a big blow to Florida. I do wonder if they're going to look to acquire someone. I think they're still a playoff team. Whether they go far, that's another question. We'll have to see. Trade wise, with the deadline being, I see what you mean. Who could be let loose? I thought you meant who could step up. Yeah, I don't know. I am not the guy to ask. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about New Jersey and sort of their depth right now, is what they're going to be doing or who they're going to trade. You're right though. Yeah, they've got to get rid of someone. Like Andre Palat is someone that I've heard they are trying to unload, but you might have to retain salary there. Like, what have his stats been the last couple of years? Him and Dougie Hamilton are the two names that I would look at as older guys that, can they get rid of those contracts? Timo Meier, I don't think you're going to get rid of. But look at this, 12 points last year, -5. Like, if he's halfway decent, if we're getting a guy that's at least, getting in the 40-point range like he was with Tampa Bay, that's going to help the team big time. So yeah, keep an eye on Palat as a name too. And does he go to like a San Jose or Chicago that, has the cap room to do it? What does New Jersey's futures look like? That's another thing. Like, do they have a lot of picks? Can they even move a lot? So they do. Look, they've got their first, second, and third pick. They got 2 4th-round picks in this year's draft. It's a very strong draft as well, so those picks are going to be worth a lot. So those are things to consider. They have a lot of draft capital too. That's another thing which will help New Jersey get out of this hole, so to speak. Where would you slot Marc-Andre in terms of all-time goaltenders? He's up there for sure. I think one thing I'll say with Marc-Andre Fleury is, like, let's look at the overall numbers. They've been very good. Is he top 10 of all time? Possibly. Some pretty good career statistics here overall. Like, even at the end with Minnesota, he put up some good numbers, good save percentage there. Like, the save percentage is what I always look at. So last couple of years it's dipped a bit, but he's always been in the 9s. I think though, people got to realize with Marc-Andre Fleury though, talented goaltender. Is he one of the all-time greats? Possibly, but I think that will get elevated because people like him so much. Right, he was a fan favorite in Pittsburgh. You saw the reception he got this week when they did the tryout contract or whatever, so you could retire as a Penguin. I think all those are factored in to, it's like one of those things. Like, I'm just trying to think of another example of like a player that was beloved by the city and therefore, I won't say overrated, but just, maybe heightened a bit more than usual because of how well liked they were. I'm trying to think of another player that sort of fits that mold, but that's where I kind of put Fleury. Like, I think he's a great goaltender. Is he the top 10 of all time? Like, I don't know. When I think of Fleury, I don't think of a guy that's like stolen. Like, maybe in his prime he was stealing games and stuff, but I don't remember him being like, like a Roberto Luongo or like a Dominic Hasek or someone that's like, that was sort of known as a guy that like anywhere he went, he could get it done, and just steal games. I don't know if I put him in that category, but certainly a great goaltender. I love how you keep reminding me of this because I'm going to be keeping tabs. Gavin McKenna, Penn State this Friday at Arizona State. That's going to be awesome. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing Gavin McKenna in action. Of course, projected first overall pick in 2026. Excited to see what he's able to do here. All right, guys, let's get a few more questions. John and whoever else is in the chat. Let me know if you have any more questions, Canucks related or not. I think we covered most of the news today with everything that's going on. Again, we got the Luke Hughes news. We've got, I'm just looking at some other NHL news that has come down the pipeline. Again, busy day. We'll see. Again, the Oilers thing is very interesting with them getting Connor Ingram. But like I mentioned there, the idea, I think, is to use him in the minors. So I initially saw that trade and thought, okay, he's going to be maybe the backup for Stuart Skinner. I think if anyone's the odd man out, it's going to be Pickard. My understanding is, and we even had Avery on, maybe a month or so ago, it seems like the Oilers really do like Skinner. So I don't think they're going to move on from him. I think the guy that they would move on from would be Calvin Pickard. So we'll have to see if that ends up panning out. So let's see what we got as far as other stuff going on, other news. Just going to have a quick look here, guys. Again, keep the questions coming if you guys got any anything to chat about here. There was another RFA. There's a couple of RFAs I think that are, so the one RFA to keep in mind on, because we mentioned the Luke Hughes signing, is Luke Evangelista for the Nashville Predators. What we're hearing this morning, actually, I'll bring the tweet up here. Let me find the tweet here real quick. It sounds like the Predators and him are not close. So is that if you can't come to terms, is that a possible trade candidate there? Yeah, David Pagnotta from the Fourth Period reporting, got the tweet right here. With Hughes and the Devils agreeing to a 7-year, $63 million contract, Luke Evangelista remains a RFA without a deal. Nashville has not been willing as of yesterday to bridge the gap on a 2-year deal. See if any added pressure is applied to get that done. So we got Mason McTavish signed, which is news. Last week we talked about that with Troy. That has got done. I think $7 million AAV, which is a great contract for the Ducks. So yeah, will the Predators, who, again, I've said this before, like, I don't know what the Predators are doing. This doesn't look to me like a team that's going to be any better than they were last year. They might be marginally better, but I don't know if they're a playoff team. So yeah, they got to get this sorted out here. And if you're not going to keep him, what does Luke Evangelista get on the market if you are looking to trade him? I don't think they are. I think they'll figure it out. Seems like all these RFAs do. We hear some chatter of trade talk. We heard that with McTavish. We heard that with Luke Hughes even. But yeah, 22 points last year. Still, 23 years old, 42nd overall in the 2020 draft. I mean, there's a lot of appeal there. Smaller guy, 6 feet tall, 183, but be curious to see how this sort of unfolds there. Penn State loaded as well. Yes. You were going to be my go-to guy, John, when it comes to college hockey. I don't watch nearly enough. The juniors are sort of what I keep tabs on. And even then I just do my best. I obviously followed the Giants here in Vancouver, but not a whole lot going on there. All right, guys, good time to end the show here today. Really appreciate it. I'm going to try and get another, basically the plan going forward is to have guests on every single week. So I will line that up for next week. I'm kind of back on like a good routine. I don't know if you guys heard, I was away last weekend, hence me getting a little bit of a tan here. I was away from Friday to Monday. So now that I'm back to normal, I will be getting line up some guests ahead of time, trying to get some different names on here too, just to check that out. Good question here from John. We got another one. John, keep the questions coming. I can hop on here a little bit longer. What do you think of the Dustin Wolf extension? It was lower AAV than I thought, but I love the deal. I mean, you can't go wrong with, let's bring up the Calgary Flames in that deal. We have a look here. They've got $11 million in cap space, and the Dustin Wolf deal comes in at, what did he end up going with? 7.5. Yeah, I like that deal a lot. He'll be a UFA in 2033. You basically secured your goaltending for the next little bit. He's only had the one good season, right? But again, it's like Luke Hughes. You're banking on high draft pick, someone that they think high of. He was not too high. He was 214th overall. But you're banking on him to be the future in your nets. You're getting him at 7.5. Like the fact that you can get a goaltender for that price and have him locked up is a huge asset to a team. A lot of teams go this route where they don't have the expensive goaltender. Like I look at a team like New York right now. Yes, they're going to have cap space next year, but look, they're tied up in their goaltending. Shesterkin's getting 11.5 a year. I mean, that's a huge gap between 11.5 and 7.4. Now, obviously, Shesterkin's proven he's one of the best goalies in the league. I think Wolf has that potential. I think it's a safe bet. The Canucks did this a number of years ago with Thatcher Demko. His contract, I mean, if you're getting a healthy Demko right now, his contract's one of the best in the league. He's this season, he's only on the books for what, $5 million? I mean, that's great for a guy that was in the Vezina conversation a couple of years ago. He said $5 million. That's an absolute steal. Demko's making less money than, half the goaltenders in the league. And when he's healthy, he's one of the best. So there's a lot to like there. But yeah, I love the Dustin Wolf move there by the Calgary Flames. I think that certainly makes a lot of sense. Okay, guys, good time to end the show here today. I'll be back next week. We'll see what is going on in the news. Of course, the regular season getting underway next week too. So we're slowly creeping up to that. So we'll see who I end up getting on next week as far as a guest. But we do like to kind of focus on that team once a show, unless there's some news that's going on too. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday. I will be back a week today. My name is James Lynch. You can check me out on Twitter @LynchOnSports. And if you guys watch the show, or you're watching the replay, or you have questions in general that didn't get answered here today, just comment on the video. I like to come back and reply to you guys when we get a chance here. So really appreciate it if you guys could do that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'll see you a week today. Have a good one and enjoy the preseason action.